Good morning, everyone, on this 21st of May, this Thursday morning. It's good to be with you. And happy Feast Day of the Ascension. Today is the day that the church marks to remember the end of Jesus' time on earth with his disciples. When we hear the story from Acts of Jesus being lifted up on a cloud, taken to heaven, and just as he is in the midst of his disciples. And at the end of the story, we get this image of the disciples looking up towards heaven. And there are two men dressed in white standing among them, who say to them, "Men of Galilee, why do you stand looking towards heaven?" And I've been thinking about those words that they say. Why do you stand looking towards heaven? Don't you know that he will come the way that he left you? And it's a sort of enigmatic saying because he was literally Jesus was taken up to heaven before their eyes, and so it would make sense that they're looking to where he went. But I think those men in white are pointing to a greater reality, that Jesus will come among them unexpectedly. And just like he called them from the places where they were, he will come to them wherever they are. And to me, that stands out as one of the central messages of Ascension. And I think it connects to this question we've been wrestling with this week. Where in your lives have you experienced the nearness of God? I've experienced the nearness of God at St. John's. I've put as the image for this video today, this scene of the Ascension as it's depicted over our altar. And because of how it connects to today, but also because for me it's such a central symbol of that space and all the ways that I've encountered God's nearness, God's presence in the midst of St. John's, the building, the space, but more importantly, the community. We keep coming back to this reminder that the church is not a building, but the church is the people of God gathered together. The church is all of God's people spread out throughout a community and throughout the world. But I've been reflecting on how I've encountered God's presence and God's nearness in that space. I've encountered the nearness of God while gathered around the table for communion. I've experienced the nearness of God saying the familiar words of our liturgy week in and week out, being able to look out and to see all of you. I've experienced the nearness of God stepping into the dark church on Sunday morning in those first still, quiet moments before turning the lights on and before anyone else gets there. I've experienced the nearness of God greeting you at the back of the church. I've experienced it at conversations at coffee hour. I've experienced it in just passing little conversations that I get to have with you through the week, in Tebbett's house, on the street, walking or biking to and from church. And while all of those ways that I've encountered God's nearness really depend on church, that nearness has continued. It's continued through this time of physical separation. I've experienced the nearness of God on phone calls and Zoom meetings. In some ways, I've had the chance to get to know some of you better, and I'm so grateful for that. That as we've been able to have time to come nearer to one another, to have intentional conversation, I felt God coming nearer to me. I've experienced God's nearness in our Bible study on Wednesday morning, reading between the lines, and the ways that it's actually even grown in this time. I've experienced it in our Wednesday evening book groups, in our community conversation on Tuesday night, in any of those places where we've still found the ability to gather. I've experienced the nearness of God in your emails, in your responses to sermons, to services, to daily reflections, and seeing the way that different people's daily reflections have sparked something in others, and the ways that at least I've come to know members of our community better through it. And I've experienced the nearness of God in the continuation of Common Table, and the ability to continue to give out meals on Thursday afternoon, to take all of the necessary safety precautions, but still to be a part of feeding our community and feeding the world. God's nearness is in St. John's and in this community. It's hard for me to believe that it's been 3 years that I've been with you, and I'm so grateful for all the ways that you have brought God nearer to me. I'm so grateful for all the ways that you've welcomed me into this community, made me a part of it, and the way that my ministry and my life has been shaped by my time with you all, and will continue to be shaped by my time with you all. This is truly a special community, and one in which God is very near. And I'm grateful for that this morning. Originally, I had something completely different planned for this reflection, but as I woke up, it was clear to me that the nearness of God is in the St. John's community. And so today, I just take with me and invite you to take with you the reminder that God is very near to us, even in this time and in our respective places when we feel that separateness very acutely. God is very near to us. I think that was the message that the disciples received on that ascension morning, that even as Jesus left them, even as they were no longer physically with them, that he would still be near to them, in their minds, in their hearts, in their souls. And all this was to prepare them for that gift of the Holy Spirit, that presence of God with them that would never leave them, that would lead them throughout the rest of their lives. And so once again this morning, I invite you to reflect on the nearness of God, where you found it in the midst of community, to remember those places that you want to get back to, but also to think of how God is drawing near to you, even in the challenges of this present time.